A major trade shakeup is unfolding, and it's making waves far beyond North America. Canada has dropped a bombshell by suggesting a whopping 100% tariff on Tesla, America's poster child for electric cars. But this isn't just about one company. It's a bold clapback at former President Trump's tariff-heavy trade policies. And if it moves forward, it could flip the entire North American auto market on its head. Here's where it gets interesting. Canada isn't just slamming the brakes on American EVs. It's rolling out the red carpet for European electric cars. This shift could hit the US auto industry hard, shaking up a trade partnership that's long been worth around $50 billion a year in cars and essential metals like aluminum and steel. Now, why target Tesla? It's not just another car brand, it's the king of US electric vehicles, holding a massive 70% of the market. Slapping a 100% tariff on Tesla could push prices up by $5,000 or more in Canada, making it a much tougher sell. With steeper price tags, Canadian buyers might look elsewhere, giving European car makers a golden opportunity to swoop in. This could leave Tesla struggling to keep its foothold north of the border and spark a major reshuffle in the EV market. This decision could set off a chain reaction of problems, way beyond just Tesla. For starters, Tesla's investors could take a big hit. When sales drop, profits shrink, and that usually means stock prices go down. With Canada being a key market, losing sales there could mess with Tesla's bigger plans for growth and expansion in North America. Investors might start to question how stable the company really is, and that nervousness could spread across the entire electric vehicle (EV) market. But it doesn't stop there. The EV industry, which has been growing at full speed, might suddenly slam the brakes. As production costs go up and car prices rise, fewer people might be able to afford electric vehicles. This could seriously slow down the push for clean energy, delaying efforts to cut carbon emissions and protect the planet. Tesla now finds itself right at the center of this trade storm. You might be wondering, can a single tariff really shake up the entire US auto industry? Absolutely. The ripple effect could be massive. Let's break it down. Tesla isn't just another American car company, it's the face of the global EV movement. The company plans to sell over 1 million cars worldwide this year, with more than 50,000 of those sales coming from Canada. But if Canada goes through with this 100% tariff, the price of a Tesla in Canada could skyrocket. Imagine this. A Tesla Model 3, which currently sells for about $40,000, could suddenly cost around $80,000. That kind of price tag would put it out of reach for most buyers. And here's the kicker. It's not just Tesla that's at risk. The entire North American auto industry could feel the heat. Big names like General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler could all get caught in the crossfire. Canada produces over 2 million cars every year, many of which are shipped straight to the US. If this tariff fight spirals, factories could shut down, leaving thousands of workers without jobs and shaking the entire industry. Canada's auto industry pulls in about $50 billion every year, but this brewing trade war, it's threatening to throw a wrench into the entire North American economy. So, how did it all get to this point? And why didn't the US see Canada's bold move coming? When one of America's biggest trade partners decides to push back, things get messy fast. And that's exactly what just happened. Canada threw down the gauntlet, and the Trump administration completely blindsided. Trade between the US and Canada is massive, over $800 billion a year. That's a lot of money on the line. But instead of folding under US pressure, Canada hit back hard. They slapped retaliatory tariffs on American goods, opened doors to new markets, and tightened ties with the European Union, all to safeguard their economy. But what triggered this all-out trade brawl? It all started when the Trump administration ramped up its America First trade strategy, slapping hefty tariffs on Canadian and European imports. The goal? Protect US industries. The result? A major backlash. Experts saw it coming. Supply chains in chaos, higher consumer prices, soaring fuel costs, and a real threat to jobs on both sides of the border. And if you've noticed gas prices creeping up or grocery bills getting heavier, this might be why. What's even scarier? This kind of tit for tat could spiral into a full on global trade war where no one really wins. So, why did the Trump administration take this risky bet? And did they completely misjudge Canada's next move? Turns out, Canada wasn't going to sit quietly. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wasted no time calling the US tariffs unfair and warning that they'd hurt both economies. Then, he hit back with retaliatory tariffs on US steel, aluminum, and even everyday essentials like beef, dairy, and fresh produce, sending a clear message: we're not backing down. But Trudeau didn't stop there. Canada fast-tracked trade deals with the European Union and nations like Indonesia and Ecuador, reducing its reliance on US markets. This wasn't just a short-term fix. It was a long-term strategy to strengthen Canada's economic position and make the US feel the squeeze. And then came the power move. Canada and the EU teamed up to form a strategic minerals alliance, directly challenging China's dominance in this critical sector. Canada and the European Union are teaming up in a game-changing way. This time, it's not about cars or tech, but something even bigger: the fight for control over critical minerals. We're talking about the stuff that powers electric cars, solar panels, smartphones, materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. These minerals are the backbone of clean energy and high-tech industries. The problem? China currently holds a tight grip on over 90% of the world's supply. But now, Canada and the EU are stepping up, building their own supply chain to cut dependence on China. This bold move isn't just about securing resources, it's also a power play that sends a loud message to the US. Fall behind on smart trade strategies, and risk missing out on the future of energy. But minerals aren't the only thing shaking up global alliances. Across the Atlantic, Europe's growing uneasy about Washington's unpredictable foreign policies, especially under Trump's leadership. One moment really pushed Europe over the edge, when the US held secret talks with Russia about Ukraine without even looping in its European allies. That was a wake-up call. Europe realized it couldn't keep depending on the US for defense. France quickly took charge, organizing high-level meetings to boost military partnerships, tighten defense supply chains, and ramp up military spending. The EU started carving out its own path, pushing for military independence and less reliance on NATO, the very alliance led by the US. At the same time, Canada and Europe are quietly shaping a new global playbook, one that doesn't always check in with Washington first. Meanwhile, the trade tensions between the US and Canada are spiraling into unexpected territory, hitting industries that few thought would get caught in the crossfire. Take American farmers, for example. They've been thrown into chaos. It all started when the US slapped a 25% tariff on Canadian products, including key agricultural exports like grains, meat, and dairy. Canada wasted no time firing back, targeting US crops like corn and soybeans, plus beef, hitting American farmers where it hurts most. The result? Export costs for US farmers shot through the roof. Finding new buyers for their goods became nearly impossible, and entire farming sectors started to feel the squeeze. One of the hardest hit industries? Dairy. U.S. dairy farmers, who've long relied on Canada as a major customer, are now drowning in losses. The new tariffs have made American dairy too pricey for Canadian buyers, crushing demand and driving prices down at home. Many U.S. dairy farms are now stuck in survival mode, with some teetering on the edge of financial collapse. Corn and soybean farmers in the US are facing a tough reality. For years, Canada has been one of their biggest buyers, but now things have taken a sharp turn. After Canada hit back with retaliatory tariffs, crop prices have crashed, leaving farmers stuck with mountains of unsold corn and soybeans. It's not just crop farmers feeling the heat. Livestock producers are caught in the storm too. Cattle and pig farmers are seeing the cost of exporting meat to Canada soar, making their products too expensive for Canadian buyers. As demand dries up, prices for beef and pork are tanking, and farmers are scrambling to find new markets to sell their meat. But this isn't just a short-term headache. The fallout from this trade fight could leave scars on the agricultural world that last for years. On the global stage, the standoff between the US and Canada is creating gaps in the agricultural supply chain. And guess who's ready to swoop in? Countries like China, Mexico, and those in the EU are eyeing the chance to fill that void, increasing their exports where American and Canadian farmers are falling behind. Back home, U.S. farmers are trying to fight back by turning to high-tech farming methods like precision agriculture. These tools can boost efficiency and cut waste. But there's a catch. They come with a hefty price tag, and with profits sinking fast, many farmers simply can't afford the investment right now. This financial strain is pushing the farming world toward big changes. Small, family-owned farms, the backbone of American agriculture, are finding it harder to survive. Some are being forced to sell out to larger agribusinesses, speeding up the trend of farm consolidation and reshaping rural communities. But it's not just about dollars and cents. There's an emotional toll too. Farmers are under massive stress, watching their livelihood slip through their fingers. The pressure is taking a serious hit on mental health in farming communities where support can be hard to find. Did you know that a big chunk of the energy powering American homes and businesses actually comes from Canada? Yep, our northern neighbor is like the secret fuel tank for the US economy. But what if, just imagine for a second, Canada suddenly shut off the tap? Picture this: gas prices shooting through the roof, factories going dark, and families opening their energy bills only to gasp at sky-high numbers. Sounds wild, right? But it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Let's break it down. The US, the world's largest economy, leans heavily on Canada for all sorts of energy, from oil and natural gas to hydropower and even uranium for nuclear plants. Without Canada's steady supply, the US would be in serious trouble, especially during those freezing winter months when heating becomes a lifeline. Take hydropower, for example. States like New York and Vermont get a big chunk of their electricity from hydro plants in Quebec. It's clean, it's affordable, and it's a key part of America's renewable energy game plan. But if Canada decided to pull the plug, those states could be staring down blackouts and energy shortages. And it's not just about keeping the lights on. Canada is also one of the top suppliers of uranium to the US, powering nuclear plants that provide electricity to millions. If that supply chain broke down, it wouldn't just hurt energy production. It could throw the whole energy market into chaos. So, what if Canada actually slammed the brakes on all that energy flow? First off, gas and heating prices would skyrocket. Imagine paying double or even triple at the pump or dreading your winter heating bill. Families would feel the pinch, but so would big industries. Factories that gobble up tons of energy, like steel plants and chemical manufacturers, would face huge spikes in operating costs. Some might have to scale back production or shut down completely, leading to job losses and supply chain headaches. And the bigger issue? The US would be scrambling to find other energy sources, fast. But stable, affordable alternatives aren't exactly waiting around the corner. That means more shortages, higher prices, and a lot of economic pain. What if Canada decided to send its energy somewhere else, like China or Europe, instead of the US? Sounds like a bold move, right? But it's not as simple as flipping a switch. Building new pipelines, ports, and shipping routes would take time and cost a fortune. So while it's possible, it's definitely not happening overnight. But here's the thing. If Canada ever did cut off its energy supply to the US, the ripple effects would be brutal. Energy prices would jump, industries would take a hit, and shortages could pop up fast. That's because the energy ties between the US and Canada are kind of like the backbone of North America's economy. Disrupting that connection, it's like yanking out a Jenga block from the bottom of the tower. Everything starts to wobble. Now let's talk about something that really had folks in Washington on edge: Canada's surprising strike at Tesla. While the US has been busy throwing up tariffs left and right to protect its economy, its closest allies are quietly pulling away, finding new trade buddies and strengthening global ties. And Canada? Oh, they're leading the charge. Take Canada's Trade Minister Mary Ong. She recently hopped on a plane to Europe, where she locked in tighter trade agreements with the European Union. Why? Because as trade tensions heat up between the US and its partners, Canada's making moves to rely less on its southern neighbor. And it's working. Since the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, kicked in, trade between Canada and the EU has skyrocketed, hitting a record breaking $100 billion in 2021. But that's just the start. Canada's also setting its sights on Asia. For decades, nearly 97% of Canada's oil flowed straight to the US, but that's changing. New deals with Japan and China mean Canada's diversifying its energy exports, spreading its resources across global markets, and cutting down its dependency on the US. This isn't just a Canada story, it's a global shift. The US, with its heavy handed tariff tactics, might be pushing its closest allies to look elsewhere. And that begs the big question: is the US slowly losing its grip as the world's top trade power? Allies branching out, supply chains reshuffling. This could be the start of a major shift in global trade. And if the US doesn't adapt, it might find itself left on the sidelines, watching as its closest partners cut new deals without it. As countries around the world branch out and build new trade partnerships, the US finds itself in a tricky spot, risking economic isolation. Nations like Canada, the EU, and several in Asia aren't just scaling back their reliance on American trade. They're also teaming up with each other, creating strong independent networks. Here's the twist: the US's use of heavy tariffs meant to protect its economy is actually pushing global partners away. Instead of strengthening its hold, it's losing ground. American businesses are watching their share in global markets shrink, while other countries are stepping in to fill the gaps. Canada, for example, isn't just shipping its goods to new markets. It's making smart moves by investing in industries of the future. Think renewable energy, green tech, and sustainable mining. These projects aren't just eco-friendly. They're laying the groundwork for Canada to thrive in the next big economic boom. By focusing on sustainability and diversification, Canada is not only reducing its dependency on US trade, but also positioning itself as a global leader in the green economy. Meanwhile, if the US sticks to its protectionist game plan, it might find itself falling behind, struggling to keep up with countries that are adapting to new market realities. So, what do you think about Canada's strategic shift? And can the US pivot before it's too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think.